Um, Alrighty, well, I want to dive into the NPC subject. And before we discuss it, I want to look a little bit at what does it actually mean? What is an NPC? A quote unquote non-player character. And are there other references to those kinds of entities, beings, slash people in our reality? And do we have any historic references for that? So let's dive a little bit into it. By the way, I didn't want to go into, putting a compilation together of NPC people. I think it's much better that we look at this less sensationalist and a little more fact driven. Okay. So, okay, here we have a few definitions or a few explanations. NPCs, non player characters, are characters in video games that are not controlled by players, but by the game's artificial intelligence. They're usually designed to serve specific functions like giving players information or advancing the storyline. So for those of you who game, I don't, but you know what that means. The internet slang in internet slang, NPC is sometimes used to describe individuals who are seen as lacking independent thought or simply going along with societal norms without questioning them, much like how NPCs in games follow pre-programmed scripts. So this is sort of where the term comes from. And it is interesting that these technological terms or virtual reality, digital reality terms and concepts often help us to comprehend what we're observing in our reality. So, but this is by no means the only way to look at this. Backdrop people, for example, according to the late spiritual author Dolores Cannon, backdrop people are individuals who, in her view, exist in the world primarily to fill the background of reality. They're not here for deep spiritual evolution or growth like other souls, in her view. Again, in Cannon's work, she describes these people as being more like extras in the grand play of life, with limited consciousness or purpose beyond supporting the experiences of more spiritually advanced individual. So we could go back. She explains that backdrop people may lack the same depth of complexity as others and could be perceived as more mechanical or less aware. This concept comes from her sessions using hypnotherapy, where her subjects revealed these ideas about how some people in the world may simply be projections or constructs within the grand design of reality. According to David Icke in his new book, The Reveal, and the interview, by the way, to our supporters on Locals, it's already available, but it's going to be available to everybody absolutely free of charge tomorrow on our website, theinspiredchannel.com. But according to David Icke, and in his new book, The Reveal, he writes, there are three major types of beings in the simulation: divine spark projections, soul incarnation, so there's a difference, and AI-directed non-player characters being played by the game. And I'm going to dive a little bit more into that in a moment here. I just wanted you to know that there are more ways to look at this. For example, in various mythologies, there are creatures or beings created to serve or exist without the same level of consciousness or soul as humans. For instance, in Jewish folklore, the golem is a being created from inanimate matter, animated by magic, but lacking free will or a soul in the human sense. So we can see that this isn't just a modern phenomenon. This is something that, looking at what we perceive to be history, ancient traditions, religions, it is actually a very well-known concept. In Gnostic traditions, there's a belief in hylic or psychic individuals who are more focused on material existence than on spiritual awakening. These individuals might be seen as functioning similarly to NPCs in that they are more concerned with mundane aspects of life and not deeply engaged in spiritual evolution or the inner quest for knowledge. In Hindu philosophy, particularly in Advaita Vedanta, the concept of Maya refers to the illusory nature of the world. Within this illusion, some beings may be seen as more awake or aware of the divine reality, while others are still caught in the illusion. This creates a framework where some may perceive others as existing in the backdrop of their own spiritual journey. In the Republic, Plato describes a group of people who have lived chained to the wall of a cave all their lives, facing a blank wall. They watch shadows projected on the wall by things passing in front of a fire behind them, and they ascribe forms to these shadows. The people in the cave are unaware of the true reality outside of the cave. Those still in the cave, oblivious to the truth, could be thought of as backdrop people in contrast to those who have seen the light of true knowledge. So we can see that this concept is neither modern nor was it invented because of video games. The idea that there are what we might perceive as real humans, real spirit versus simply programmed people is fairly, it's been there for a long time. I think what helps us today is that we have so much visual representation. And as a matter of fact, I'm preparing a show where we will dive really, really deep into the expanded views of reality, how to look at simulated reality and even simulated spirituality. We're going to do this next week, but I wanted to pull out this aspect of the NPCs because that's what a lot of people are interested in. And it is part of our conversation with David Icke, by the way, because he talks about it too. And he said something that was quite profound, because I asked him about his estimation as to how many people that we see, at the store, on the roads, at a concert, or anywhere else are actually NPCs, non-player characters. And he says, well, if we are honest, we almost all start out as NPCs. 100% of the people almost start out because of the programming that we go through. So regardless of whether you think of yourself or somebody else as a divine spark, so having that true thing within them or not, he says almost everybody starts out as an NPC and could go through their entire life as an NPC if they are simply following the program, the script. And what is the program, the script? It is the non-questioning of norms, of standards, of conventions, right? You simply go along, you fill out the forms, you do your 9 to 5, you do everything that society tells you you're supposed to do, and you never question anything beyond it. You do your vacation if you can, or whatever. And so he says, basically, in that, also divine spark, true spirit, can simply be or function as an NPC if consciousness, higher consciousness, does not override the program. What does that mean? Well, that's the part where the awakening comes in, right? That's the part where you, I, and so many others, at some point in our lives, and some have never really been fully programmed, right? That's the ideal case. But so many people have started questioning one thing after the other. It might have been world events. It might have been the political structure, the financial structure, but they simply started questioning. It's like, why is it the way that it is? For me, I was incredibly frustrated as a kid. To every question where I said, why is it that way? Most of the adults simply said, that's just the way it is. That's the way it's always been. And guess what? That's the way it's always going to be. And that simply wasn't good enough for me. So I think part of this, the first wave of the awakening spirit is questioning, and this is already deemed as rebellion by those who are helplessly programmed. They don't understand why some people question things, right? They don't understand why somebody would question things that simply are the way they are. And so that is, that's what's happening and has been happening to a lot of people. So that's where consciousness begins to look at norms and society and everything, says something just isn't right here. What is it? I can't put my finger on it, but something isn't right. And so when spirit reawakens, you can't put it back to sleep. And that's where the journey becomes bigger, and you question bigger concepts, and you question, that's where everybody first sees you as just a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, right? But you go broader and broader and broader. And then we have the idea that there is a certain section of the population, and some estimate it to be 95%, that it's not just that they aren't questioning anything, it's that they are actually simply AI created program, a holographic projection, if you will, downloaded into this program, simply there to fill up the space and have a mass direction in order to distract and maybe discourage the 5% of real consciousness, real spirit, from questioning, from expanding, from becoming who they truly are. And that, to me, if I look at life experience, and if I look at all the conversations I've had, and if I look at all the daily interactions that I might go through, is, as triggering as this might sound, is a concept that feels very authentic to me. The thing is that, in an unquestioning, or let's say in a sort of a compliant spiritual way, where a lot of people that, let's say, they have explored beyond their religious traditions. If you're, no matter, depending on where you grow up, your religious tradition might be Christian or Muslim or Hindu, or, I mean, depending on that. But a lot of people are questioning beyond that. And beyond that, they're exploring spirituality. And this awakening spirit then sort of starts to find a new box to be in. And in that box, a common concept is we are all the same. We are all one. And on the highest level of creation, there's no doubt about it that everything was created from an original consciousness. But after the creation of everything, there obviously was a split in that consciousness. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we see it today as individual expressions of consciousness that have different perceptions. So there was a split. And for some, that split was so, for some forms of consciousness, they've moved so far away, they're so inverted, that I think they created things and created whole realities that are diametrically opposed to the real thing, if you will. But to stick with what some are saying in the broader spiritual community, is it's disrespectful to call someone an NPC. It's disrespectful to even explore the subject. Everybody has their own spiritual journey. Everybody is on their own timeline. And that all sounds good. And it sort of sounds like something that you tell yourself to fall asleep at night and feel better. And I get that. I get that. Within this matrix, we do need some tactics. But the truth is, I don't see that. It's not my experience that we are all on a spiritual journey. I see plenty of beings that look like people around me that are not. There is no inner dialogue. There is no development. There is no questioning. There is no asking themselves, why am I here? What is my purpose? What is the purpose of all of this, right? Some of the most fundamental questions that real spirit has. And you can either stand there in judgment and point finger at those and say, oh my God, and they're dumb, and but that's not what I'm talking about. It's when you're willing to face the truth about something, you're simply accepting facts for what they are. So if you go and, let's say you're going into a house, you're looking at a house, it's on the market for sale, it's a beautiful house. And, those houses are usually staged, right? There's people that come in and they put furniture in if there was no furniture, and they make sure everything looks nice. That's what they call staging. So when you first walk in the house and you look at a side table a little further away from you, you see a beautiful bouquet of flowers. And then you come closer to that bouquet of flowers and you start suspecting that they're not real, right? Are they fake or are they real? So then you come closer and you touch them and they feel fake, and you smell them and there's no scent. Now, would you then continue to go on and water that flower and water those flowers and continue smelling them? Or would you just accept the fact that these are not real flowers and move on? You know, it's not a fully fair comparison, but I think as we're exploring greater truths and as we're, gaining more and more understanding and more knowledge and following where the evidence leads us, we're starting to explore that we truly have been entrapped for quite some time in something that resembles reality but really isn't. So why would it be so hard for us to think that a lot of what we see is simply there to distract us from something? If you look at footage they have all these concerts now and these tours of dead artists and bands where they have holograms, right? And these holograms are so good that you virtually can't tell the difference. But once you know, you don't say, "Oh my God, I saw Elvis in concert last night." No, you say, I went to a show where Elvis looked so real, was a hologram of Elvis on stage moving around singing." And you go, "But I know it was just a hologram. I know it wasn't the real Elvis." So when we look at the NPCs, and this is why the subject matters. Imagine if we never question this, we go through life looking at large groups of people as opinion givers, or, well, obviously a billion people can't be wrong. But what if there's not a billion people? What if it's mainly biological computers and nothing else, with no true spirit that has the ability to question? Would you say, and this is where we get into the discussion that is upon us, where countries, Saudi Arabia, I remember the story, has given or has attributed full personhood to a robot. So given a AI robot the same rights and privileges as they would give their citizens. And we can talk about that entire concept as to how some country could give or take. But for the sake of argument here, they're saying that the AI robot is equal to a real human being. And in their mind, it is. Because in their mind, there's no difference. They look at the AI bio robots and then they look at the AI mechanical robots that they created and say it's basically the same thing. But there is a distinction. There's human spirit. And human spirit, when it awakens to its potential, beginning to awaken to its potential, when it, that literally feels like, waking up, because for the first time, it has always resided in your body, but for the first time, you're seeing through the eyes of spirit and realizing it. And you go, where was I all my life? There's this great song, the country song, George Strait, "Where Have I Been All My Life?" But it's literally that. And so when human spirit awakens, everything begins to change. And then you look at the vast numbers of friends or acquaintances and relatives and people you observe, neighbors and coworkers, where that never, ever happens. It never happens. Nothing fundamentally ever changes. They go about their lives, they live their rhythm, they do what they're told, they fill out the forms, they retire, they do what they're expected to do in retirement, and then they die. They leave the body. That's it. There is nothing else. That's not human spirit awakening. That is not a co-creative being. And this is not to pass judgment. Why that matters is because a lot of true human spirit gets sidetracked by that. It is always with one eye looking at the program. Maybe I can find a place where I can fit in. And more people have reported to us and are reporting to us and this is maybe a discussion that's happening even more in our locals community. And what they're saying is, I, for so long now, have felt like I couldn't fit in anywhere. Like it doesn't matter what I try or where I go, or it just doesn't seem like I can connect. And then every now and then, and this is what happens in the locals community, because a lot of true human spirit goes there, by the way, where we connect deeper. And then for the first time in a long time, they feel a real connection, even though it's through a digital medium. But it feels like spirit interacting with spirit. And you know this. You can go to, maybe in the past you've been invited to a party, to a function, and there's 100 people there, and you have all these small talk conversations, and you just go, I'm losing brain cells. I don't even know what I'm doing, why I'm here. This doesn't matter. This conversation doesn't matter. What that person said is absolutely of no interest and serves no one. I mean, I've had plenty of those moments. But then somewhere towards the end of the night, there was this one person you've been eyeing all evening that you piqued your interest, and you get to have a conversation with them. And it's human spirit, real spirit having a conversation with spirit. So you both have spirit and you talk to each other, and you just go, wow, I almost forgot what that feels like. I almost forgot what the real thing feels like. But whenever you have that kind of experience, it reminds you that there is real spirit and that there is authenticity, and that it truly is useless to pursue all these other conversations or relationships if you can tell within 5 minutes there's nothing there. And this sounds harsh. I understand that, and this might not be how you want to go about it, but I've eliminated 99% of those conversations. Sometimes it's just part of my day. I go to a store, so I have to have a short interaction, but I make it a point. If I don't feel a human spirit, if I cannot sense it within a short period of time, I will not pursue such conversations. And for certain, I will not pursue such relationships at all. Which means that your life becomes less crowded with people. Now, when you never think about this entire concept and why you feel the way that you feel, you might start feeling like you're crazy, like the thoughts that you're having are weird, like something is wrong with you. So this is why these conversations are important, not to go out and somehow discriminate against what you think is an NPC. I don't even think that's necessary. I don't think that is necessary. I think, when NPCs, non-player characters, so just empty biological computers, when whatever the program tells them to do in order to distract or discourage divine spark, when that stops working, the entire idea of having them around is useless. And that's why, the more that people trust in their true intuition, the more that they trust in what they receive from higher consciousness, the more that they trust in their questioning and in their purpose, the more they start standing in truth. And then that can bother you. That can really affect you, right? And so what all of this is aimed at is the realization that what allows for the program to exist and continue to exist is being asleep. Maybe dissolves the entire matrix program is awakening. And I think this is really how it works. So, people have accused me of this entire discussion being dehumanizing, and they've said, well, that's what they did with the Jews, and they did with minorities, or what. And this is not what this is about. By the way, NPCs come in all shapes, sizes, and religions. They come in black, white, yellow, Hindu, Christian, Muslim, cowboy. They come in all shapes and sizes. So there's no discrimination there. But I do think it's an important conversation, and I think that looking at the characteristics and paying attention to how you feel, that's your indicator. How you feel when listening to someone or conversing with someone helps you become more confident again. And more importantly, it actually helps you create real bonds, real relationships. One of the most common messages that we received in the past when we talked about NPCs is, guess what? Help, I'm married to an NPC. Why? Because usually at the time when those two people met, they were both living in the program and with the program both unknowingly. So it was program meeting program, and that was good. But somewhere during that journey, one of them awakened to their human spirit and started awakening. And the other one kept going, just being the program. And in the beginning, that still works. But the more that true human spirit awakens, the discrepancy becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And so it just does, at the end, it doesn't work anymore. And it could very well be that other person simply is an NPC. Could also be human spirit simply not willing to wake up. And these are all possibilities. Again, this is not about discrimination. This is about looking at reality with more open eyes. And what has been in the way, by the way, aside from norms and religions and standards, really where I see the big barrier for a lot of awakening people is what a lot of people might call the New Age philosophies or New Age spirituality, because it is the last stand between reality, the real thing, and the simulation. And we're going to go into that deeper in our shows next week. I'm preparing, as I said, quite a big show on that. But I would encourage you all to tune in. If you haven't, if you want to watch it now, you can go to Locals, inspired.locals.com. For all our supporters there, the David Icke interview is already available, but it will become available on our website for everyone free, theinspiredchannel.com tomorrow morning. Saturday, by the way, for those who watch later, that's going to be Saturday, September 21st. The reactions to this David Icke interview so far have been off the hook. So many people are going, it's transformative. The conversation is transformative, especially if you walk with the concepts discussed and contemplate on them. And if you're honest with yourself, you will probably have so many aha moments. This is the conversation that I'm excited about right now. This is what we talk about behind the scenes. This is what we explore. Why? Because when human spirit awakens to a certain degree, it cannot go further in this awakening journey unless it really faces all the truths that it is confronted with. You can't let ideology or New Age spirituality or feel-good concepts get in the way. We're breaking through barriers here. We're breaking through barriers of energetic barriers and barriers of information, and we're climbing walls that have been there for a very, very long time. And as we're breaking through and as we're climbing these walls, it feels like being, pioneers. It's new territory. It really isn't new territory. We're just rediscovering it. And it requires bravery and courage. And somebody sort of put a meme up on X I saw yesterday. We're sort of in the apocalypse revelation where truth is coming out, but at the same time, we still have to go to work. And it's like this weird, strange in-between reality where we already know that so much of what we're doing here in this matrix, in the big scheme of things, does not matter and is actually counterproductive. But we are not quite there yet to fully, on all areas, change it overnight. So let's give ourselves permission to expand. Let's give our consciousness permission to expand. And let's not guilt and shame ourselves. We're doing the best we can with what we have where we are every day. right? But the premise should be that we continue doing that. And so I know these concepts often trigger people. They trigger their deepest religious beliefs. They trigger their deepest spiritual beliefs. They trigger anything that they deem to be true. But I think it's important, because what I have experienced in my life is that whenever I stopped following the breadcrumbs, whenever I stopped exploring truth because I hit an ideological wall, which means my belief system told me this cannot be true, this better not be true, I found myself getting lower down on a consciousness scale. Whenever I was brave enough to break through and go, okay, this might have been what I believed, but the evidence is showing me there's more. And this has been one of the most beautiful sentences in the interview with David. He said, we're all awakening, including me. He doesn't put himself on a pedestal, and he says, there is always more to explore and more to know. The greatest trap is to think in any given moment, I've got it. I figured it all out. This is how it works, right? And who hasn't thought that before? You know, who hasn't thought, oh, now I understand everything? And that's a trap. Let's continue. Let's continue to explore, and let's continue to. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay. Oh, so I was wrong about that. Boo-hoo. So what? I keep moving forward, and I'm willing to correct myself. And this is the last but most important message, probably, that there is truth, objective truth. Our entire reality is psyoped right now into the conclusion that there really is no truth. There is objective truth. And when we continually correct our thinking and correct our beliefs and correct our perceptions, we calibrate ourselves to truth. And we're exploring it authentically. But there is such a thing as truth. And this is the greatest bullshit in the broader New Age and spiritual philosophy, that there's my truth, and then there's your truth, and everybody has their own truth. Bullshit. There is an objective truth. Now, you can feel about something whichever way you want. It's your prerogative. You can feel whichever way you want. And you can create concepts and belief systems in your mind all day long. That's totally acceptable. I mean, people believe they're cats. Others think they're changing genders like they're changing underwear. Well, okay. Well, who am I to say you can't believe that? But there is an objective truth. That's what we're interested in. That's what we continue to explore. And I'll never say I have it. That I'm saying I'm calibrating myself to the best of my abilities to the truth every single day. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. I so look forward to you all watching the David Icke interview. It's coming out tomorrow. Again, it is available at inspired.locals.com. And you can watch it right now. That's for our supporters. And thank you for your continued support.